All right, joining me now is Todd Bensman. He sent me a video today. I think he's about to head to the Darien Gap. Todd, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here. Yeah, there was a slight hint in that video that I might be going down there.
Yeah, slight hint. Well, it seemed like it's a very, very big deal. Tell our audience about what you reported today and what you're about to do and why it is a big deal.
Sure. The Darien Gap is a passage through the jungle. It's roadless, connecting South America to the rest of North America through Panama. It's probably the most trammeled illegal immigration route in this hemisphere for sure, maybe even the world now. More than 1.5 million foreign nationals have crossed through the gap in the last 36 months. All of them made it into the United States. It is a very, very significant net contributor to our border crisis. But also in being a net contributor to the border crisis, it is the contributor to the national security threat, terrorism threat, war criminals, spies from China, etc. That's how they all get through. The reason that I'm going down there now is because Panama elected itself a new president who has promised to close the gap for the first time. Now, 800,000 people are expected to go through there this year. 550,000 went through last year, 350,000 the year before, and so on. The idea that a president of Panama would close that gap is the first time I've ever heard of such a thing. He's already moved to construct, barbed wire edifices and barriers over a bunch of different paths, and we don't really know what else he's doing or plans to do. It's a big story for not only our border, but by extrapolation, our outcome of the 2024 presidential election, because what happens at our border is very influential right now in that election campaign. So if the Biden administration and the Panamanian government plan to shut that down and reduce the flows, it doesn't look as bad in the election. It slows things down. And so I'm going to go down there and see what's actually going on, since nobody else really is.
Wow. So you're about the only one reporting this right now, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some scattered reports in Latin America. NBC News did a piece about like barbed wire going up on the Colombia side of the pass. The Biden administration went down there and 2 weeks ago and promised that we were going to contribute American air assets for deportation flights. I'm guessing at least through November 5th, but afterwards I wouldn't count on it. But Americans are setting up down there supposedly to participate in shutting the Darien Gap down. This is huge news for the border, huge news for the migration crisis, a very momentous happening down there. And I'm going to go down there and look. I haven't been down there in 4 or 5 years. I'm going to go down there and take another look-see on both sides of the Darien. I'll be on the Colombia side for the first week, and then I'll probably spend a second week on the Panamanian side looking around.
Will you be able to give us reports from there?
I should be able to. I mean, the places I'm going, some of the places I'm going have no internet whatsoever, no cell signal, nothing. But then, there'll be plenty of places where I can, and if we'll just text back and forth. Okay. And I'm bringing my trusty little mini tripod, so I should be able to set up anywhere out there.
Well, let's plan on it. Yeah, we'll follow him on Twitter, because you'll also be taking a lot of video footage and posting it on your X account, right?
Yes. I'll be taking video. We'll be putting it up as I go on the CIS.org site. We'll have a page up there. I'll put it up on my Twitter or I guess it's X. I don't know. Nobody seems to get offended if I say Twitter, but
I prefer Twitter myself. Are you?
Yeah.
Is our government going to keep flying these people in then? If they shut this thing down, is our government just going to bypass? It won't really matter it will matter to a degree. I guess it stops the flow a little bit, but some of them are still just going to be hopping on planes and being brought in, right?
Yeah, that's going on. All of that's still going to happen. The flights that you're talking about, those are parole flights. They're flying people from 4 or 8 different nationalities from all over South America directly into the United States. So a lot of them don't have to go through the Darien Gap anymore. And they're also letting them cross escorted at the land ports. 500,000 just in the last year at the land ports, and 500,000 by air. But there's still plenty that are crossing through the gap, 5, 6, 7,000 a day still moving through there. The Biden administration made it easy. They built a super highway through there. They worked with the prior Panamanian government to facilitate the most that they could get through there in the shortest period of time. And now all of a sudden, with the election coming and immigration looking terrible for them for the election, they're going to contribute air assets for deportation flights. I'm going to go see what's really going on with that.
Now let's talk about Kamala Harris real quick. I don't know if they're going to stick with her or not because, I mean, they've chased away Joe Biden. Okay, that's step one. Now they got to get rid of Kamala. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. I have no idea what these people are planning. I know Obama is saying he's not going to, he hasn't endorsed her yet, that the convention should be interesting. I do notice that, a lot of the outlets, CNN, MSNBC, they seem to be talking her down like, she can't win. She can't do this, which makes me again wonder if they're putting this into the hopper to convince everybody she's got to go. She's got to go. Then we're going to go to an open convention. People say, well, she has the delegates, but she doesn't have the delegates until they actually vote. And a lot can happen between now and then. I want to ask about her because of her position as the quote borders are. But before I do that, watch what CNN just recently put out about her.
All this stuff about Brat Summer and all that jazz. So I want to take a look at Trump versus Democratic margin. Just remind folks where we were at the end of the 2020 campaign. Joe Biden won voters under the age of 35 by 21 points. What do we see with Kamala Harris? Well, she's still ahead, but the margin here is significantly less than what we saw with Joe Biden back in 2020. She's up by just 9 points. You may make the argument that was better than Biden was doing before he got out, but compared to that Democratic baseline, where Democrats have historically in presidential elections, at least this century, been carrying that young vote by 20 or more percentage points, she is way down from that. So if this is unique support among young voters, I would like to know what non-unique support is. Is it even worse than this?
Is she doing better than Biden was, though?
She was doing slightly better. Maybe Biden was up by, like 6 on average or 5. This is maybe slightly better, but this is not game-changing stuff, Mr. Berman.
All right, what have we seen in terms of motivation?
Yeah, so, the other thing is we talk about vote choice, right? But let's also talk about motivation, right? Because it's not just who you would support, it's whether or not you'd come out to the polls. And this, I think, is rather interesting. Do Democrats say they're more motivated to turn out after Biden left the race? Well, we do see a significant portion of Democrats who say yes, 39%. The thing I was interested in was it disproportionately younger voters who said that they were more likely to turn out or more motivated to turn out. And what we see here is it's 42%. Not a big difference between 42 and 39%. So this idea, again, that the vice president has unique potential to dig in and get young voters to turn out, John, it's just not there in the numbers despite all the internet memes that are going around.
Wow. And again, that's just one of many videos I can play tonight, Todd, where it seemed. Now, that's CNN. I've got another one here, MSNBC, on swing voters. This is Wisconsin. Watch this.
Blame for President Biden being in office in this condition. Who deserves the blame?
His close staff. They work with him every day.
So I think that's what also makes me nervous about the Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
Talk about that a bit.
So yes, she's going to be in it, but she also helped keep him in where he's at right now. And if he really is as bad as what they've been saying, I think if he steps down as president and she steps into the presidency before the end of his term, it almost makes me question a little bit more why it didn't happen sooner. She's worked with him. She's been, to my understanding, with him daily, or at least a couple of days a week, why hasn't this been brought to her attention if she's willing to hide that type of information once she's in office? Now what she's willing to hide for herself.
Wow. Again, that's MSNBC. So we got CNN, we got MSNBC. This is another CNN. Listen to this one, then we'll get a response from Todd.
Data reporter Harry Enton joining me now to run the numbers. There is a lot of excitement. We have not seen this kind of shift in tone from the Democrats in particular. I can't remember a time where we've been through something like this.
This has been the craziest month in American politics that I can possibly recall. It was less than a month ago that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were debating in the CNN debate.
Less than a month.
Less than a month. We had a failed assassination attempt. We had a president literally saying, no, I'm not going to run for re-election less than a month before the Democratic National Convention. But here is the thing, Sarah Seidner, for all of the excitement that Democrats have over Kamala Harris, it is going to be difficult to beat Donald Trump, and I want to give you an understanding of why. Let's take a look here just first at the favorable views of Donald Trump. We know that Donald Trump has historically been unpopular. But take a look now. After the Republican National Convention, in the ABC News Ipsos poll, he recorded his highest ever favorable rating at 40%. That's not a one-off. Take a look at the Quinnipiac University poll, 46%. That's the highest ever in that pollster. The fact is, Donald Trump is more popular now than he ever has been before. So yes, Democrats can make this switcheroo, but they're still going to have to beat Donald Trump, a Donald Trump who is stronger, Sarah, than he has ever been before.
It will be interesting to see how voters respond to all of this. Now, how is he doing relative to Harris, who did run at one point? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, so let's take a look here, right? We've been focusing so much on how Harris was doing better than Biden in the polling, and that's true. If we take a look at the national average, what do we see? We see Donald Trump up by 1. That's a within the margin race, right? That's a close race. But remember, of course, in the national popular vote, Democrats tend to do better there than they've done in the Electoral College, at least when Donald Trump has been running for president. So last time around, when Joe Biden barely won in the Electoral College, he actually won the national popular vote by 4 points. So at this point, Donald Trump is running 5 points better. That's a 5 of some sort. 5 points better than he was 4 years ago against Joe Biden. So at this particular point, whether you look at the favorable ratings, whether you look at the horse race polling, we see that Donald Trump is doing significantly better than he was doing 4 years ago at this point. Kamala Harris is going to have to do better than this, of course, if she wants to win the popular vote, but more than that if she wants to win the Electoral College, where she'll likely have to outperform how she's done nationally, because the fact is, if you got to tie it in the national popular vote, that is probably not good enough if you're Kamala Harris and you want to win.
Wow. So I don't know, Todd, it seems as though we got rid of Joe. Now we got MSNBC, CNN talking down Kamala. I mean, it has only been a few days. It sounds like we're headed to a very interesting situation in Chicago. And I guess I bring all that in because of the border. And now today, the big story was they were trying to, I guess some of the powers that be on her side, at least, were trying to say she's not the border czar. But she was named the border czar, and you have an article out over at CIS.org saying that, here it is, Kamala Harris, immigration extremist. Of course, this is not going to help her numbers any. Again, this is just one of many things I guess they could throw out there on the Democrat side if they're trying to discredit her, because this is a major issue for voters, is it not? The border.
Absolutely. Every poll shows that Republicans and Democrats alike regard this as a major problem. Republicans significantly more than the Democrats, but lots of Democrats are furious over this. Black Americans who vote Democratic historically, Latino Americans who vote that way, they are particularly worried that there'll be this disaffection from the party over to the Trump side just over this, especially in all the big major cities where you're seeing tremendous social strains and fiscal burdens. Everybody's fighting mad at each other in those city councils up there over what to do here, and that's going to reflect out in the polls. It could be the deciding factor, but Kamala Harris, as I point out in that essay at CIS.org, in a similar piece that ran yesterday in the New York Post, shorter, is that her history on this subject runs very sharply counter to mainstream America. Her views are on the very, very fringe extreme left. Open borders, no detention, no deportation, free health care, path to citizenship for everybody, decriminalizing illegal immigration, basically abolishing ICE, putting massive oversight on the Border Patrol. I mean, really just opening it wide in a way that really no mainstream Democrat has ever even proposed. She was down with all of it, all through her 2018, 2019 presidential campaign. It's on her website. It's in her public comments. And there's no reason at all to believe that she has shifted any of those views in like 36 months, 40 months or so. She certainly hasn't given any indication. She's keeping her lips sealed right now about what she would do and what her views are on that issue, probably smartly. But until she disavows what she was saying in 2019, they stand. As far as I'm concerned, that's her last stated position on this, and she hasn't altered it. So she's in trouble on that issue, big trouble.
Indeed she is. Todd Bensman, toddbensman.com. Toddbensman.com is his main website, toddbensman.com. He works for the Center for Immigration Studies, which is CIS.org. And you can find him on X, Bensman, at Bensman Todd.